important one of all, freeze makes transformation biologically impossible. Nothing you can do about that. I don't know. Has anybody ever had a dog of any kind? Yeah. Okay. So it's like, what is she talking for in this thing? Okay. So I'm talking about a dog because I had a Australian Shepherd, and Australian Shepherds are known for herding. They actually are bred to herd cattle. They originally they didn't have they had their tails docked, so if the cattle wouldn't be able to step on them, their skull is so hard to resist being kicked by the cattle. Well, my dog was just a pet. He was a most amazing dog. And when we would go for a walk as a group, he would be herding us. Like literally, as we're walking, he was going back and forth and back and forth. And sometimes we would go on these walks to raise money for the Humane Society. And there'd be a car in the road. And so two of us would go on one side and the rest of the group is on the other side of the car. He went crazy because his flock was no longer all together until we were all together. That was his biology. Now, thanks to my beautiful daughter, I have a rescue dog who they say is about 70% terrier. And terriers, they're bred to find and get rid of rodents, in the barn and stuff. So what does my dog do? He's done this year. He brought a mouse into the house. He's always looking for where there might be a squirrel or something. My other dog didn't care about that stuff. He just cared about making sure his flock was together. It's our biology. And so this is what I'm saying. Freeze makes transformation biologically impossible. It's not something you did, not something that anything, but not saying that we can't do something about it. But when you're in freeze, it's impossible. So what does freeze actually look like? And think about this for yourself. Always tired, but yeah, you can't rest. That's that fight or flight, that energy that's like, oh my God, I'm tired, but I can't sleep. High functioning, but numb. That was me. I was totally able to do everything, but I was numb. I had no idea I was numb. That's the worst part. I didn't know it. Avoiding decisions. Have you ever said, oh, I'll decide that tomorrow? You know what I would do? I would have a decision. And for whatever reason, I'd wait to the last second. It didn't make any difference. It wasn't that I was doing anything different, but I waited to the very end. Procrastinating. Even though you want the thing, you still are procrastinating. Oh my God. Having big dreams, but no energy to get started. Scrolling instead of doing. How many of you have that? They call it the doom scrolling. I do it at night. I don't know why. Doing everything for everyone else, forgetting about yourself. Losing yourself. I already told you about mine. Feeling disconnected from your body. Feeling like nothing brings you joy. I don't know if what brings you joy? Can you answer that question? What brings me joy? I couldn't at all. Getting through the day instead of living the day. And freeze is not the absence of effort. Freeze is the absence of capacity. This stuff makes me emotional, I have to say. And so this is the next thing. Why? I told you about midlife women are the ones that fail the most when it comes to taking courses. Why is that? Why are we at the most risk as midlife women? So behaviors that come from a dysregulated system, the nervous system. They're not motivation. It's, as I said, survival strategies. So some of the survival strategies, you shut down. If you can't get it done and that fight or flight doesn't work, the next step to conserve energy is to shut down. You withdraw. Maybe you are emotionally numb. We already talked about this, procrastination. Perfectionism is another way that we are dysregulated and we're in freeze. People pleasing. Oh my gosh, how many people could people please there? Yep. Do it all the time. Boundaries. Yeah, I had no boundaries because I was doing for everybody else. Addiction. Could be a sugar addiction, a food addiction, scrolling, or other, drugs or other things like that. Alcohol. So there's lots of ways. Avoidance. That's another one. Spinning. My God, I have a little story on that one. So I was doing a call with somebody. It was somebody I didn't know for my coach. And she said, so I get on the call and this lady started like great guns. She started talking all sorts of stuff about who she was and how great she was. And you know what happened to me? My head just started to spin. I was no longer listening to her. I could feel it swirling in my head. I was like, okay, Debbie, get back in the game here. But I'm sure how many can feel that spinning in your head? Another one, overthinking. And burnout patterns. So a lot of people, I know a lot of people in my corporate job that you could see them coming close to burnout. But I don't think when you're in it, you really see it. And then there's I'm the good girl, the survival archetype, being the good girl for everyone. That sounds terrible. But the truth is that this is not who you are. This is what your nervous system has become so you can survive. That's it. That's all it is. All right. So there's good news. Okay, but let's talk about it. Why we disconnect from our body. So we disconnect, and what happens is, and I was there, it's like you forget about how you feel. I didn't feel anything. I was numb. So why do we do that disconnection? Everything's from the kind of the mental brain side. It's because of feeling unsafe. Maybe this comes from when you were a child. They talk about childhood trauma. I think we all have some of that, I've talked to a lot of women who are like me, who had a very dominating father. I'm 65 years old and I love my father. I love him to death, but I'm still afraid of him. Because we were rewarded for self-abandonment. When you kind of get into this stage where you're doing things for everyone else, or maybe you're trying to play small. And hyper-independence becomes our survival strategy. We become independent because we don't want to have to rely on someone else. I would have been afraid to even ask someone to help me. And this one, again, think of that IPO, that unintended positive outcome, but the patriarchal has taught women to live from the neck up. We've been taught not to feel. And because chronic stress numbs the body over time, how many of us are in chronic stress? I spent, we just I raised 4 daughters. I was taught you're supposed to be super mom. You're supposed to be able to do everything yourself. Do it yourself. Become that independent person. This is what modern life is designed for women to be depleted, not on purpose. Nobody planned it that way, but that's the reality that we live in today. Anybody relate to that? You could put a yes or a no, depending on how do you feel about this stuff. You think that our modern life is actually helping us to be disconnected? I want to talk a little bit, yes, tough on us. I want to talk a little bit about nutrition because nutrition is really big to me. When you're dysregulated, your body is searching for fast safety. So when you're in freeze and overwhelm, you have lower amounts of dopamine and serotonin. Those are our feel good, happy hormones. And then how does your body cope with that? Sugar, processed foods that have a lot of density and calories in it, the mac and cheese, I don't know, whatever it is, a hamburger, whatever it is for you. We're all different. So what foods do you reach for? I was addicted to sugar. Well, when I gave up the sugar, I found other things like chips and all that stuff, So, but our body is just trying to protect us and have us survive. That's one of the survival strategies. Comfort foods, they soothe us. And, so when you have those cravings, it's not necessarily because I love that chocolate. Ooh, I've got a chocolate recipe for you that's good. You can feel good about eating it. And poor nourishment keeps us in a state of freeze. But those cravings, those things are all our body just saying, I need to survive. I need the calories, just whatever it is, so that I can try and get myself out of freeze. And then my shout out, whole food, plant-based, are not about dieting. It's about giving our nervous system support. That's what our nervous system is looking for. All right. So on that note, all the doom and gloom, that's why we're stuck in this place of freeze. Does it make sense to everybody? Anybody? I think it's yes. This makes sense. All right. I'm going to go to the next part, which is how do we get out of freeze? How can we really make the pathways to get out of that state? So I have a 3R blueprint. The first one is to recognize. So the first thing you need to do when you are in that freeze, in that deep freeze, like I was, is to rise. You need to first see and feel. You need to be able to notice where you're at. Now, we've learned to live from our neck up, and everything's about our brain. But the reality is 80% of our biology and how we move through life comes from our nervous system up to our emotions and then to our brain. And only 20% is coming from our brain down to our gut and everything. But it always starts from the bottom up, and the bottom is our nervous system. Number one. So pay attention to how you feel, recognize it. And when you can start to recognize it, what you're doing and those patterns and the survival strategies, and when you're abandoning yourself and naming it, then you can start to work through it and anchor it and move forward. I just wanted to share a little story. I've been working with a group of women who are starting their businesses. And they all come in all gung-ho for their business. Everybody's good. And they all have this freeze that comes up. And they've been working on noticing and naming and recognizing when they're in these states. So every time we have a class, the first thing they do is recognize and notice and name where they're at. And one of the ladies, she's been doing this now since August, and she hasn't gotten anywhere on her business. Like, we talk about it every week, every 2 weeks, and she has a plan and she hasn't gotten through. But yesterday, I had a call with her and she looked different. She looked more positive. She just looked more rested. Before, she would say if she just had this hodgepodge of swirling going on in her life. Yesterday, she was clear and she started to move forward now. And it took her since August, but now she's moving forward because she has been working on noticing, naming her nervous system and how she feels. If people say to you, how do you feel in your body? That's where it comes from. Recognize. And so once you recognize what's happening inside, then you can move to the next step, which is to actually regulate. So this is when you can start making the shift. This is when your nervous system starts to feel safe. Your biology opens up. Your energy rises and you get clarity. Your cravings settle. Nobody, when they're in a freeze state, wants to eat a salad. They want to eat the comfort foods. And there's lots of great comfort foods that are healthy for you too. But nobody wants to eat. You're not reaching for the healthy stuff when you're in freeze. But now your capacity returns. When you regulate, your capacity turns. And so then you can start to get some stability with your nourishment, support, and regulation is what is going to give you that opportunity to get that bounce back in your step and to be able to move forward. Just like the lady that I was telling you in the student trying to start her business. She's been so frustrated, but now she's able to move forward. She started to regulate herself. And once you regulate yourself, oh my gosh, then you can rise. This is where your ambition is back. This is where your clarity returns. This is where you sign up for those courses and you actually are in that percentage that completes them and does it, and not in that huge, horrible statistic of what they call failure. You didn't fail. You just weren't ready. So rise is when you start to be able to take that aligned action without forcing yourself, because when your system is regulated, you naturally gravitate to the life that you want. And this is where we connect to our future self. That woman that you saw earlier, she lives in the rise. And my job, my mission in life is to help women to be able to get to that rise. What happens, that 2% that actually are able to have that sustainable completion. But what happens is we're taught to move from recognize to rise. You cannot do that. Your biology trumps you every time. You need to go from recognize to regulate. Then you can rise. Then you can do the courses and have success in those courses. Take a deep breath. So now you see it. Now you see why I don't know if it's you, maybe you've been stuck. And by the way, if you have some chronic disease or health issues, I didn't talk about the chronic disease and the health issues. They come into here. And maybe your rise is just to feel better, to have your health back. It's all tied to the same place. And so that's one of the reasons, if you go to the doctor and you're not feeling well and you've got low energy and your head is ready to explode, you can't have any clarity. The doctor says there's nothing wrong with you, your labs are all perfect. It's likely because your nervous system is holding you back. Your nervous system is in freeze. So now that you see it, why you maybe have been stuck, and you know now that it isn't your fault, and why change hasn't lasted for you, the question is, how do you begin shifting gently, safely, and realistically in your real life? And that is the $64,000 question. How do you move? So that's exactly why I've created the 5 days to spark your energy experience. So this is not another program to overwhelm you. You can tell I'm not about overwhelming anybody. It's not a push harder for a week. It's not a productivity boot camp. It's a guided step towards thawing out, to being able to get to that rise. This is when you're thawed out, you're in rise. Oops. I want to say, yeah, it's the thaw. I call this the great deep freeze. And my mission is to help women to unthaw from this great deep freeze that we're in. The thing that really scares me is we don't even realize that's where we are at. So we're going to go through a guided, structured 5 days to reconnect to your body, build safety, build nourishment, take that first step towards becoming the woman that you met earlier today. And in the 5 days, you'll walk away with 2 things that every woman needs to change her life. And that is a clear, call it a freedom thrive her goal for the next year. Where are you going? You need to have a path and a direction, and also a personalized plan to take those steps to be able to get there. And the most importantly, you're not doing it alone, because one of the other things is co-regulation is not optional. It's essential. Co-regulation means being in community. We've been taught to isolate, and yet we need to be in community. You cannot move from recognize, regulate, and rise alone. You need co-regulation. It's not even, like I said, it's not optional. It is what you need. All right. So I have my VIP Energy Spark experience. This is to help you to transform the insights into calm, clarity, and steady energy. You can do it fairly quickly. For some people, maybe it'll take a little longer. We're all different, and everybody's nervous system is unique. It's like your fingerprints. Everybody is different. The package is $47, the VIP. It has a total value of $2,000 plus. So you get the Energy Spark Guide, which is an instant download to help you to start working on some of the regulation on your own. You also get the 5 days to reclaim your energy. This is the 5 days to spark your energy. And that is going to be next week, Monday to Friday. For some people, it's going to be the same time as this started at 1 p.m. Eastern, for Monday to Friday. We're going to go through the exercises to help you find that path. And I guarantee that you will find that path to where you want to go in the next year. And if you don't find that, we'll keep working until you do. You also have the personalized energy Spark Blueprint call, which is really a one call with me to help you to get some of that clarity that you're looking for. Remember, you can't do this on your own. And also, we just finished 2 amazing nervous system nutrition revolution conferences, and you get all the recordings to the experts. There's 12 panels of experts, some amazing aha moments from there. So all of that is $2,000. value anyway. And like I said, you have my Freedom Thriver guarantee. So if you show up and you participate, I'm going to guarantee that you walk away with a clear, personalized plan on how to move from that freeze to rise. And I'm guaranteeing that no matter where you are starting from, exhausted, overwhelmed, unclear, disconnected. And by the end of the 5 days in the Spark Your Energy, you will have your Freedom Thriver goal, which is that 1-year vision of where you want to go, because you need to, you can get a roadmap, but you got to find a place to get to before you can have a roadmap. And a personalized that roadmap, that step-by-step plan to help you begin to move towards that goal in a way that your nervous system can trust, because unless you do that, it's impossible to get there. So if you don't leave with a plan that you're confident with after the 5 days, I will work with you until you have that plan. That's my guarantee. And if you join my VIP before we end today, then I have a special bonus. I have this Feminine Rhythm Daily Journal that you can start to really work on where you're at in your rhythm. And it aligns to the moon cycle, because as women, we align to the lunar or moon cycle very closely. And our energy, men tend to go by the circadian rhythms, which is that 24-hour clock, but women tend to align more to the moon cycle. And by the way, our circadian rhythms are different than men's circadian rhythms. That was an aha moment for me only a few weeks ago. But, and that's one of the reasons why there can be times when you have so much energy and creativity around the time of the full moon, usually. And there may be other times when you're just feeling like, I don't even want to get out of bed. And it's okay. It's normal. So if you can do that, and I'm doing that on the call because I want you to really make a decision and say yes to yourself and step up for yourself. And that's it. That's all I have. I have room for questions. So I can, if you're, and I think Apple put the link to join up to the Freedom Thriver. If there are any questions, anything you need to know to be able to make that decision today, I would love to. I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's any questions. And just FYI, if you can't attend live, because I know some of you have things that are between kind of a noon and 2 o'clock is like, that's like the time that the calendar highway is like packed and jammed for a lot of people. So if you've got other courses and stuff, you can still get the replays. But obviously, I would better if you can attend live. All right. Okay. Well, I don't see any questions. So on that note, oh, yes, $47. That's it. Thanks, Apple. All right.
I have a question, Debbie.
Yes,
A comment. I just wanted to let you know this was a brilliant presentation, and I'm so moved, and I'd like to be in.
Thank you.
So it's 1 hour every day for 5 days, is that right?
Yes.
And then if we can't make it, then there's a recording.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. And then what happens after the 5 days?
After the 5 days, well, we'll talk about that during the course. We'll talk about that. I do have another program to help you, because I want people. This is my purpose, is to help women, and it's taken me a while to really articulate this, but I want you to be successful. So I do have another program to help you actually execute on the plan, but we'll get you the plan and then we could talk about executing on that plan. If you want to move forward with that. Beautiful.